Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Bob's Garage. I got a video for you on my Mark 6 Jetta again. Had a couple videos before about it. This is a video on the brakes. I've done these brakes once before. Done on my previous Jetta quite a few times. So I'm going to do it. There's lots of videos on brakes. This is a Mark 6, a 2015 Jetta. Lots of videos on it, but I'm just going to add to it, or add to all the other ones that are out there. So not a whole lot special with this. A couple things I'm going to go over. First is, I did these brakes actually about 3 years ago. So I'm in the Northwest. If you take a look, got the wheel off already, by the way, safety first. Got a nice big heavy duty jack. Going to be getting some jack stands on both sides as well. But these brakes are only about 3 years old, I think. And I went for the premium, but a particular problem in the Northwest. What happened the last time I did them, I knocked off a whole bunch of scale. But what happens here is the moisture, even on a day that's raining a little bit, and humidity, they'll corrode up. You get a surface corrosion, you get scale forming, and then you get all kinds of problems. So right now I knocked a bunch of scale off. I was having a problem with pulsations. I knew they were bad. You could see it. I had the wheels off once before for something else. There's plenty of meat left on the shoes. That's the really frustrating piece. This is entirely just because corrosion builds up from sitting. This is all highway driving, and it doesn't clean off very well, and so you don't have a clean surface. Once the rust gets a foothold, screwed. So pretty straightforward. A few things I do. Got to clean up this caliper a little bit, the slides. That's typically what happens with these. There's little stainless steel inserts, I think, on this one. Let's do so many of these, I'm not sure, that allow the brake pads to slide back and forth. Check that. I always spend a great deal of time to make sure they're free of scale, that the brake pads run freely within the grooves, good lubrication, but generally clean this all up. Brush off the bit of surface rust here, hit it with, again, the rust-proofing paint as well. Probably do the same thing to the replacement hubs. This time, again, I'm not getting anything as a sponsor, but I got a set of Brembo brakes. Now, the reason for that was I got some online last time. They're working really well, good corrosion. So this I got from one of our local suppliers, but I think they're trying to just make their product line a little bit more mainstream. So maybe I didn't ask for the right product. This is all available, but there's just, let's see if we get that out. There's a little bit lighter of an E-coat there. So I was expecting maybe something a little bit more, a little bit on the rims, but we'll see. I won't judge too quickly. I said the Brembos we put on the last car, I think I did a video of that. Not 100%. Oh no, I guess I didn't. That was a little bit earlier. But they're holding up fantastically. These were premium ones at the time. There was a coating here, but you can see the discs went well before the shoes or the pads ever wore down. So they take it apart, really straightforward. 2 bolts hold the caliper on. This little Torx screw head holds the disc on. Take the bracket that holds the mounting frame off. Some larger bolts. Again, make sure you've got a real good jack there, and it comes apart pretty quickly. Goes back on. Make sure to clean everything up when I'm in there. My dust shield, take a look at them. Probably give them a little bit of a coating as well, just to make them last a bit longer. Squirt up a little bit of rust proofing underneath at the same time. See how far I get. Getting started late in the day, but see if we can get things moving along here. Whew, that was hard. Actually came apart real easy, but it's hot. It's probably about 80, 85, 90 degrees, like 27, 28 degrees Celsius. So I'm sweating up a storm here, but give a bit of an idea. So you can see these calipers. I last had the wheel off, and I can't remember. I think it was replacing the spring, but I'm not sure. Or it might have been another time, I'm not sure. I knocked all the scale off the back, but you can see how difficult it was to get it off the hub. That's got to be thoroughly cleaned. I could have swore I did that before. Just shows how much the rust comes along. There's the back. So this is what I was dealing with for. I knocked this off the front side, but because I didn't take the caliper off, I couldn't get that off. It doesn't matter. It's toast. It's no good anymore. Again, that's only like 3 years old. So this is the inner pad. You can see I was showing you in fast motion. There's a crown there. It was riding in the back. So it didn't take too much to get it apart. Again, these I had anti-seize on them from the last time I took apart, so they came out even though they're fairly good torque. Same with the screw. Everything's got to be cleaned up. And you can see here my jet pads. Oh yeah, it's crowned over, so the edges were getting thin, but the center was good. This one here, that is the outer. So typically what happens when the piston, the caliper stops sliding in this track, the inner does all the work. So you have to pay really close attention here. These grooves is where the brake calipers ride in. So they slide back and forth. You can see that's all jammed up. It wouldn't take much that would have locked up and then nothing would happen. So I'm going to spend a fair bit of time cleaning this. I'm going to clean all specifically here, and I'm going to take a file to make sure these are square. But I want these brake pads to slide smoothly, and I'm going to lubricate this up really well. Clean it up. That is the most important thing. The rest is just cosmetic, and for here, just for cleaning up what's there already. So I won't show you that, but when I get that done, I'll bring you back. Okay, I thought I'd bring you back so you can see what I've done here. So an impact hammer set to a very low setting, so you're just chipping just to speed things up. A little bit more to chip off, filing to square things up. So you can see here, got against the sun so you can see the reflection. I cleaned up these slides, took all the pitting off, but this area is fine too. You got to take a look at your pads. So in this case, this is the wrong side for here. Grab the right one. It rides on top of here, but if it's touching the bottom or touching the other side, it'll bind. So it's got to be you've got to make sure you clear everything and it slides free. This wouldn't do this before. Now it will. So next thing is to coat that and then lubricate it. So I'm not really too worried about this. I'll paint this up at the same time, but it is these surfaces that are really important to equal and effective braking action. So that scale's got to come off, and those tracks have got to be square. So it must have been my last set, because these aren't too bad. Got a little bit there on the side, and I also put a little bit of bevel back in on the inside here, but they're not as bad as I thought. Again, I must have been confusing this with the last Jetta. So anyways, I thought I'd show that to you, a little bit more detail, and I think next time I'll bring you back is when I'm actually assembling. I almost forgot to record this, and I started putting it back together. So you can see that everything's cleaned up. Wire wheeled the entire hub face, because as you can see, I had to use a sledge to get the disc off. This is ready to go. Calipers coated with a high temperature caliper paint. That silver should add an extra 10 miles per hour to it, I'm sure. Got my screw, and they came with a Phillips headed screw. I'm putting the Torx back in. You can grip a whole lot better. That Phillips I know is going to round off. So I got that already with the anti-seize on it, and the bolts for the caliper bracket are all coated up with anti-seize, so it's pretty straightforward. When I get to this part, when I get the brackets mounted, that's when I'll start putting some anti-seize on. So I'm going to use Brembo's lube. I typically use my own generic lube, but I'm going to try this and see how it works. I think I'm going to pay close attention to, you can see they put a bit in the back, kind of not sure how effective that is. At least I put in some key contact points, not the entire surface, but I'm going to be putting it, I'll use my own lube for the pins. Haven't showed you that, but they're here. So I pull those out and I clean them and I lube them, but I'll use my own lighter lube. This tends to be more thick, and I'll put this lube on these slides. I'm thinking my lube is too thin and runs off with the heat. This will probably be better for the slide, so I'm going to try that out as well. So I'll probably put it in a fast motion for the assembly, because frankly it's just the reverse of taking it apart. Not a whole lot there. And that will probably be the last drive unless I run into any special surprises. Okay, back together. Some of my paint got marred up a little bit. Well, that's life. I started cleaning off the brake rotors with a bit of brake clean. I thought I better stop and check to see what the manufacturer says. Sometimes they have a bedding surface. I'm not sure. When you get grease on it, you got to take it off. So I think it needs to come off anyways. So that's all that's left. I had to compress the piston caliper, and so this isn't the way not to do it. The reason you don't compress it back in is because it's got anti-lock, and I'm told it can mess up the anti-lock system. I've never done it, but I'm sure I'm just running on borrowed time. So you're actually supposed to open the bleeder valve, drain out extra fluid, which also helps flush out the lines and prevents dirty material from getting back up into the anti-lock system. So one of these days it's going to catch me, and it's going to be expensive. So other than that, torque the two mounting bolts. Had a little bit of difficulty getting it in because I had the pins in too far. So I bound up on the pins. The The two bracket mounting plates have been tightened up, but it's ready to go. So that's basically it. So I'm interested to see how this lasts now. So that's, I think, all for this. I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup and finish this off in a minute or two. We got it all done. Did the other side. It actually came apart easier, but it was way more rusty. Surprisingly, the rotor came off without too much effort, but it was worse shape. I was wrong. Those pads were wore down pretty far. They should have come off a while back, so I put that off way too long. I'm going to put a couple of notes in the video when I edit it, some different ways of putting it together. But it's pretty straightforward. Overall, like the skill level, this is probably like a 3 out of 5. But it's something you shouldn't be doing unless you're experienced. Brakes are pretty important. So with these Jettas, I've owned 3 Jettas, not to mention how many other cars, but they're pretty straightforward. I'm very familiar with them. Like I said, I've cut a couple corners, which I'll explain, but it's pretty straightforward. But really, if you're new to this, this is probably close to a 4 out of 5 for skill level, because you really got to know what to do, especially with newer braking systems with anti-lock on them. You can mess things up there as well. As far as tools go, it's again probably about a 3 out of 5. You don't need much. You can get by. It just takes a whole lot longer. So if you wanted to do it fairly quickly, this took a whole lot longer than expected, simply for getting the rust off the brake caliper mounts. That took a long time to make sure those things were well lubricated, well cleaned, and the guides are straight. That in itself probably took an hour and a half by itself, and the actual assembly was only about 15 minutes. So on a tool level, like I said, you could get by with just basic hand tools, sockets, different size sockets, but frankly, this is probably a little bit higher end. You're probably up to a 3, maybe a little bit more than that. We got some pneumatic tools just to speed things along. Quite a different assortment of, obviously, of sockets, metric, Torx, Allen. But that was, again, all just to make it a little bit easier. So, good do-it-yourself job, but, you really want to make sure you go through things, go through other videos, and get a good idea what you're doing before you go. So, hope you enjoy this. The next video is going to be the rear brakes, which are equally as bad. One surprise I did find the front, I got a bad tire. So I'll be changing those out as well. So it's pretty good that I looked at this as well. So thanks for watching.